today I've come into the city to talk about monetization. Let's jump into it. G'day! How are you going today? It is so good to see you. Today I wanted to talk about monetization, and here we are in my gallery space, in my studio, which is what that is all about. It is what this place is all about, monetization. And we're standing here in front of this very large piece. It is 1.5 meters, which is around 60 inches by 2.1, I think around 84 inches in height. Photographed, might I add, on the Sony A7R, not the 3, the original one, 36 megapixels of joy. So yes, today I wanted to talk about monetization, how it's important for a photographic artist like me, and how also on YouTube it is equally important. But yeah, this really is a framed piece of art. I just wanted you to prove that it's actually there, it's not chroma key. Let's talk about it. So it's easy for us all to wonder, monetization, why is it here? What's it for? Why is it on YouTube? Why am I seeing an ad? Why is there a banner here? Why have I got to click? And that's because as a creator, as an artist, as a small business person who for 30 years has made my own living from monetizing my artwork. This here is a card rack, and every single card on this rack is an image of mine which I have printed in the thousands each one. So I've printed thousands of this one, thousands of this one, in order to get the economies of scale to be able to sell them for $5 or $6 at retail. This is monetization. In my time, I have created 100 different images of postcards, and they're all produced in the quantities of 4,000 or 5,000 copies. So that would mean I have 500,000, I've made 500,000 postcards. Greeting cards, which for example this is, where it's a card, and I had a previous video showing off cards not that long ago, a front, and I reckon I'm almost the only person I know on the universe who puts an image on the back as well as the front, and then it's blank inside with the envelope, which we can see here. And again, I would produce 5,000 of these, and I have made almost 200 different greeting cards since 1991. So 1 million greeting cards. And that is monetization. That is what has to be done in order to make a living as an artist. That is what this space is about. This is what storing it looks like. That is what this artwork is for. I take these images, I decide which ones I like, I stretch them, I mount them, I frame them, whatever I decide to do, put them in a book, and so on. And then from there, you endeavour to sell them. Hopefully you can sell some, and that becomes your living. And that is the world that I have known since I sold my very first image in a shop in the April of 1990. Monetization. It includes a lot of things in my world. Tea towels, bookmarks, there's some of the weirder ones, tea towels and bookmarks. And of course, the two biggest things I've created, of which have been the largest investment, are these books, which if you check out this video here, I was talking about. This is my latest book. This book filling up half of my warehouse. Because again, you produce it in the thousands, otherwise it's way too expensive. And this is a book full of images. Images of Sydney. Beautiful place. And putting something like this together is very time consuming, very hard work, and the risk is high, very high. But this is monetization. Monetization of this photo, this photo, so on and so forth. Monetization, it's all the same thing. The Melbourne book, of course, which started all the books in my world, relatively late in proceedings. The first one was basically finished in 2011, but didn't make it out till 2012, just due to timing issues more than anything. So this is 20 years into my career before I got my first book out. That's just the way it goes, because I decided, one, I wanted to be kind of established. I don't think one should put a book out if one's just arrived. Two, I wanted to make sure I had an appropriate catalogue of work. So what this book is about is a generation of this city. How has this city evolved and changed? Its beautiful moments, may they be foggy or night, tilt shift by the way. The laneways, massive investment in time. And the reason I specifically want to talk about this book, it was the first one that I'd created. Thus, it was the first time I did it. Thus, I knew the least about it. And that made it the hardest. And basically, from the moment I started working on this book till the moment I turned a profit, it was probably something like 2.5 years. It was literally that long before I made my first cent. As in profit. I made money, but I hadn't made profit. And it's arguable the profit didn't even happen then. That was just profit based on the cost of production. The cost of production over $100,000. Because this book is, as you can see, it's almost A3. It's big. Again, I produced thousands of them, but you've got to produce it in that volume to get the unit cost down so you can sell it at a price that people actually want to buy it for. So I'm used to the idea of attempting to monetize what I do and then it potentially taking a couple of years before something happens. It's the long game. Sometimes you've got to play the long game to get the greatest results. And this book here is probably, from a publishing perspective, the best thing that I ever did. Out of those almost 10,000 copies that I've made, I've got 300 copies left. And that's pretty amazing in a country of this size and a city of this size. So I'm very happy. But why I'm bringing this up is because I wanted to really talk about YouTube monetization and the fact that I feel like some people feel like it's not a good thing or it's a bad thing or that you shouldn't do it. But I see YouTube monetization as being exactly the same as this. It's exactly the same. And it's why I'm so comfortable with it. It's why I'm so comfortable with it being a long game before something happens. But an artist needs to be able to merchandise themselves, create something of value, and then people part with their money in order to get hold of it. That's how this model works. The way YouTube works, very simple, and it's something that we've all been doing if we've ever watched television our whole lives, which is you watch 5 or 10 minutes of content, and then you might see 3 to 5 minutes of advertisements. And that is how commercial television has worked my whole life in this country, and I'm sure it works much the same in the rest of the world. And YouTube is no different, except for the fact that you are getting content that you have requested to watch, and then you are getting advertisements, which are a mix of YouTube understanding who you are and a YouTube understanding who I am and what my channel is presenting. And then through their algorithms, they try to deliver advertising content that suits you. So I actually think it's an amazing thing because the reality is most of the advertisements that we have to watch on YouTube, you can only watch for 3 or 5 seconds and then you're able to click out of them. On your average video, in essence, you might only be watching 20 seconds of commercials for the entire presentation. And that's it, 20 seconds, and that's it. Whereas on commercial television, if you were to watch 15 or 20 minutes of content, you could easily be faced with 3 times 3 minutes of advertisements. So 10 minutes. 10 minutes instead of 20 seconds. So I think the YouTube model is very fair and very reasonable. I've never created all that you can see in this room. I haven't created that out of thin air. And of course, the content on YouTube, as much as I love doing it, and as much as filmmaking is actually something that I'm super passionate about after 30 years of being a photographer, I've said this before, I'll say it again because this might be your first time here. Filmmaking was actually my number one passion, not photography. Very close second, and obviously they're very similar disciplines. But being a filmmaker was actually what I wanted to be. And back in 1989/1990, that was almost impossible. This level of equipment that we have today cost $100,000 more. Whereas now, a camera like the Z50 comes out, you can be a filmmaker for sub $1,000 in the USA. Amazing. So here I am doing something that I love and that I'm passionate about, but also it's completely normal for me to monetize it. That's what I do. I don't have another job. I don't work in IT. I don't do something else. This is what I do, photography and filmmaking. So I think monetization is super important for people like me. Might not be important for other people where it's actually just a hobby. This actually pays my mortgage. It pays the rent. All what you see here, plus what you're seeing right here, it's a combination. Now, YouTube's a long game, and it could be years. I'm estimating right now 4 to 5 years before any meaningful income that would get anywhere near matching what I get in my normal world, the rest of my world. It could be 4 or 5 years before that happens. But that's okay. It's a long game. It's like my book, 2.5 years. It's like my whole career. The first 10 years, I didn't really know what was going to happen, but you just keep at it. So bear a thought when you're watching those ads, clicking on those ads. Understand, for someone like me, this is my life, this is my passion, this is not a hobby, this is what I do, this is part of what I do, and everything I say and give, it's all part of it. And for those 10 or 20 or 30 seconds worth of ads that you need to watch to get through it, to see me, that keeps me here. And yeah, you know, maybe one day I'll set up a Patreon, and YouTube has a similar sort of thing as well. But we'll talk about that another day. But I just wanted to talk about monetization and the fact that for an artist and for all artists, it's super important. We have to merchandise ourselves. And bands would be the number one example. They create a song, they put it on a record, a CD, online, then you have to buy it one way or another. You either buy it or you pay for a streaming subscription, and then that revenue goes back to the artist. But that is them monetizing themselves, merchandising themselves. I'd love to know what you think about this topic. I mean, it's an interesting topic. The whole thing's very, very interesting. I love the internet for the fact that we can all get so many things for free. I think it's free. Like 20 seconds of my time to watch an ad for something I'm really interested in, I think that's a fair trade. It's just fair trade. I don't even have to part with any cash, just a little bit of time. What do you think? Do you think that's fair and reasonable? I do. As always, thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time here and you like what you see, please subscribe. I would love to see you again. Please like, helps get the word out there. Please share, makes us all smarter, and I look forward to seeing you next time.